In this short series, I impart all of my knowledge around Pokemon to you, including these topics. In this episode, we will talk about how horrible the maps, the boxes, and the Pokédex are in Scarlet and Violet, and how much better they were in Sword and Shield. Don't forget to give this video a rating and subscribe if you want the pixelated Pokemon sprites back, or just simply sprites that can actually load in quickly. Let's talk about the map, the Pokédex, and the boxes, so all of these UI features. Now, a bunch of the stuff that I'm about to talk about will feel like to some of you that it's just nitpicking. And some of them are very small issues, nitpicks. However, other ones are huge issues in my opinion. And then thirdly, they might seem really small and easily fixable issues. And yes, they are easily fixable issues, but they have ramifications towards the gameplay that I just cannot ignore. So when it comes to the map and the minimap, they're actually pretty aesthetically pleasing. One of the first ever things I did, turn off the main map from rotating. Luckily you can do this in the settings. However, you cannot turn off the minimap rotating. Now, there are about 7 billion people on this planet. Maybe it's arrogant of me to presume this, but I'm pretty sure 90% of that 7 billion does not like rotating minimaps or maps in video games. It's so very disorientating when I set a destination, I fly to a certain location. I remember that on the main map that location was at the bottom right, but because of this stupid rotating minimap, now I have to completely orient myself. If the minimap wasn't rotating, I could actually orient myself even without using destination points. Furthermore, I don't think I've ever seen a more useless zoomed out map in any video game before than this one. So when you zoom out completely, this is completely uninteractable besides these like story points that I've already completed, and that's why the numbers are there, like I said in the previous point about not being able to complete gyms in any order that you want. And to go back, I have to press the zoom in button again, but it doesn't save the location. So if I zoom out, here's the lighthouse, I zoom in, it doesn't go there, it goes back to my previous location. This is such BS. This is basically the biggest functional map that you can use, and it's still a bit too zoomed in my opinion. Especially when the Pokédex entries are shown in this map that you can never properly use anyways. I cannot even place down a destination point if I wanted to. So I started playing when they enabled home transfers. So from Pokemon Home you could grab a bunch of other Pokemon from other Pokemon games and transfer stuff over, which is really useful to complete a Pokédex, for instance. I don't really know, you guys should tell me how long you had to wait for it, because I think it was like 7 months until they enabled Pokemon Home support, which is crazy. And that's the only reason I noticed that boxes in Scarlet and Violet are much worse than Pokemon Home, or indeed Pokemon Sword and Shield, which I'm going to dissect to the very atoms in a second. What the issue is, it's actually really funny. So we just talked about the red and the green fans, right? Red and green fans don't agree in anything, but there is one thing red and green fans agreed upon, and that was the fact that back in Pokemon Sword and Shield, the pixelated sprites in the boxes looked very cool, and they should have just copy-pasted that over to this game, and they haven't. Small issue, okay, but the ramifications of not bringing over the pixelated sprites, these look really nice actually, these little sprites, but they are most likely really small 3D models, and what this does, as you can see, is there is about a 3-second lag between actually loading the sprites and just displaying the loading icon. This is extremely frustrating, especially if you are doing, for instance, Tera Raids, or you are trading and you are trying to find something, especially if you have unsorted boxes. I have extremely sorted boxes, as you can see, from all the way from normal types to dark and steel types, so I have less issues. But even for me, it's just really annoying to pick stuff up really quickly for Tera Raids and whatnot. The shortcuts have been changed completely, so I can't remember what the buttons were in Sword and Shield, also Pokemon Home, but for instance, to select multiple Pokemon, now you have to press the minus button on the Switch controller, which is extremely clunky. I don't know what they had before, but it was much better. Not to mention that many buttons used to do something useful in the boxes. You can never have enough shortcuts, and now many buttons are completely useless. For instance, you can go between different boxes pressing these buttons, but the bottom, but I don't know what these are called. Hang on, I don't know what these bottom ones are called, but I think you used to be able to select the multi-select tool and whatnot using that, but now they just don't do anything, and you have to sort of remap everything in your mind to learn everything again. Because of this shortcut awkwardness and mainly the sprites not loading properly, whenever I had to complete my Pokédex and I brought all the Pokemon over from Sword and Shield and Home that I previously caught, I just had to sort out all of these normal fighting, all of these types and all of my boxes in Pokemon Home. So to properly sort your boxes, you literally have to quit the game and do it in a different application, which is mind-boggling. And again, it's been 7 months and no fix. The solution to this, and I don't know if you've heard about the Microsoft Word solution, but whenever you are creating an application where you edit documents, even though Microsoft Word, for instance, doesn't have the best shortcuts, many developers choose to bring over the Microsoft Word shortcuts because all of us are used to that. Now, very similarly, what they should have done, the best solution would have been, is to just bring over the Pokemon Home shortcuts, so there is consistency between all Pokemon games. They should have brought back the previous 2D sprites, but we will talk about this in a second. I will dissect this to the very end, because they load faster, and just like Pokemon Home, they should have added shiny sprites. Like all of these Pokemon in my party are shiny, but they don't have separate sprites. In Home, they do. Let's talk about the Pokédex. I used to think that I would have many positives about the Pokédex, but there is literally just one positive about it. That is that now each Pokemon has a cool little artwork. All of these screenshots give a unique look into the Pokemon's life. Like here you can see Appleton probably trying to get honey from attacking combies, Scovillains fighting, Frostlass trying to scare someone to death. All of these are really cool, but that's the only positive. As you can see, even the Pokédex lags with the sprites. If you are trying to find something in the very middle of the Pokédex, for instance, let's sort by alphabetical. If I wanted to read or check the location of something at the letter L or M, it literally takes like 20 seconds for me to get there. Besides the alphabetical sorting and I guess the numerical sorting, every other sorting type is completely useless. Checking the location of where to catch each Pokemon is completely useless as well. First of all, it doesn't show your current location where you are right now, and the map itself is the most zoomed out map that you cannot even properly access when you go into your map. We'll talk about this in a second, because this is the most annoying thing I've ever seen in my entire life. The Pokédex location always resets when you go back into it. We are at the very beginning again, even though we were in the middle. So every time I wanted to hunt something that I was missing for my Pokédex, I had to literally take a Nintendo Switch screenshot, even though this one doesn't have a location. Hang on. A Nintendo Switch screenshot, go into the albums, and it was much faster than scrolling to the very middle of the stupid Pokédex again and again. But the Pokemon's location doesn't end there, the issues with it, because every time I just wanted to play the video game without looking up any YouTube videos, I regretted it. It was much easier when someone explained to me a couple of these hard to hunt down Pokemon locations like Lilligant and some of the other ones than trying to go with this stupid map that half of the areas you just don't see the Pokemon at, and it's not because they are nighttime Pokemon. We'll talk about that as well in a sec. Another super annoying user experience or UX design decision was that whenever you catch a Pokemon, first of all, it doesn't matter how many times you catch a Pokemon, you get the Pokédex entry, which is a little bit useless. But what I wanted to mention is that I often like to read the Pokédex entry. At this point, there is a Litleo has been sent to your boxes text message, and I want to okay it to see the writing behind it properly. but whenever you do that, it just closes the stupid Pokédex entry anyways. And then my final complaint, and this is a complaint for every single Pokemon game that I've ever played, besides maybe like the first ones where there were memory constraints on how many paragraphs you can have on each Pokemon. Nowadays there is no such thing, so I don't understand why don't we get 10 paragraphs on each Pokemon's life instead of just the one. Some of you haven't realized this, but even you, viewer, could just write 10 paragraphs on any Pokemon, and you can make up literally anything. You can completely recanonize a Pokédex entry, because they've done that before. Like, imagine what you could write. You could write the relation of Abomasnow to Snorunt, or right now in Paldea maybe they battle Baxcaliburs or something. It's always really cool when different Pokemon have a relation. Oh my god, almost there. In the very middle again. Like how Kilowattrel can ride 430 miles a day. You could write about its relation to the fish Pokemon, what it hunts. Maybe it uses electricity to hunt down these fish Pokemon. Whatever. Like, you could literally have so much, and there is just nothing. There's just one paragraph each game, and it's also different between expansions. I'm not sure why they couldn't just include both in both expansions, both paragraphs. So how exactly is Sword and Shield better in terms of the boxes and the Pokédex? So in Sword and Shield the sprites load pretty much instantly. In the Pokédex, if you want to skip 10 Pokemon or however many Pokemon ahead, you can just press the left and the right buttons to skip like 10 ahead. So it's actually really fast to traverse the entire Pokédex. When you check the map location of the Pokemon, you can actually see where you are in relation to the Pokemon's locations. There is an intuitive UI to check if they spawn in certain weather, which was kind of annoying in weather, but whatever. And you can use this map to fly, whereas you just cannot do. It's a 2D image in Scarlet and Violet. And not only that, when you skip out of the Pokédex and you go back, it saves your previous damn location. A lot of green fans are going to say that all of these issues are because there wasn't enough development time. But what you need to realize is that all they needed to do was copy and paste the Sword and Shield boxes and Pokédex systems, and not only would it be much better if they did that, but it would have also cost them much less development time. Game Freak developers literally worked more for a worse system. So this is one of the points where Game Freak might not be as talented of a developer as you think they are, or the way they organize outsourcing this stuff, because I don't know who actually built the new systems. It's not really good. And don't worry, after we'll talk about trading, I'll talk about Pokemon Home, especially the mobile application and their issues later.